Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a high energy motivational speaker, none other than Mr. E.A. Johnson.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Welcome, Mr. EA, on Book 101 review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, no, some of the things about me, yeah, just through my life, I've had to go through a bunch of different traumas that I've had that have kind of led me to where I am today. Today, I'm a motivational speaker, award-winning pharmaceutical sales rep, loving husband and loving father. But that's where I am now. It's not where I started out. So the start of my journey and how I got here is what I'd like to talk to you a little more about, and you can see just how anyone can be great when they put their mind to things.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. EA. Thank you. And today let's talk about breaking the chains of childhood trauma. So tell us, how does a childhood trauma fundamentally rewire our nervous system and create an internal blueprint for our relationship, self worth,
Yeah,
and reaction to stress in adulthood?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a little bit more about me and my childhood trauma. I was sexually abused as a child. I was physically abused as a child, and those childhood traumas really stayed with me into adulthood because I didn't really deal with those traumas. They stayed with me, and as I got into adulthood, I had a severe anxiety. Very, very anxious, and that anxiety then led to insomnia. So insomnia meant I couldn't sleep. So when I had that insomnia, I was trying to figure out and reach for things and ways that I could get some sleep. And when I was doing that, the first thing I reached for was alcohol. So I started drinking and drinking too much. That didn't work and didn't help me to sleep. So then I started reaching for pain pills. I started becoming addicted to pain pills. I was taking Oxy and Vicodins and Percocets and you name it, whatever I could get my hands on, I was taking it. So that led to an addiction to pain medicine. So those pain pills had me in a very, very dark, dark place in my life. I was had my lights turned off for non-payment, my cable turned off for non-payment, and I was just really, really in a dark, dark place, making minimum wage basically. And then one day, I just I had this idea that I'm just gonna write down everything that I'm taking today. So one night I wrote everything down, and the next day I woke up and I read the list, and I was looking at the list, and it was Oxy and Vicodin and Percocet and half a bottle of wine and Nyquil. And as I read this list, and I was not suicidal, but when I read this list, and I thought, man, if my mom read this list or my best friend read this list, they would think I was trying to kill myself. So it's kind of in that moment that I was the impetus or the beginning of that change for me that says, this has to stop. I have to do things differently moving forward. So that was the beginning of the change. And as I was on my journey and going through that change, I started to realize that human beings, we all vibrate at different frequencies. And I realized that when you have feelings of love and joy, you vibrate at a high frequency. And when you have feelings of anger and sorrow and doubt, you vibrate at a low frequency. So I started to realize that, success is a vibe. I say coffee is a vibe and yoga is a vibe. And I saw successful people really vibrating at this higher frequency. So I was like, man, success is a vibe. And for me, that vibe is an acronym that stands for V is for vision, and then I is for intention, B is for belief, and then E is for execution. So when you have all four of those, you can have a lifetime of success. And for me, it was my success vibe system that helped me to get through my journey from becoming from where I was in a very dark place to becoming who I am today.
Trauma is not always about a single dramatic event. what are some of the most subtle, quiet forms of childhood trauma that can be just as damaging, and why are they so often overlooked?
Yeah, the thing is, I think it's a lot of it is the mental damage because for myself, at least I had, physical abuse and sexual abuse and these things that were happening physically to me. And those are things that you think maybe you can compartmentalize or I can get past it or I can get over it, things of that nature. But the subtleties that we don't realize is those things get embedded in my brain and in your subconscious. And what happens is they start to affect who you believe you are. You start to believe what you think you can accomplish. They start to affect your worth. And all of those things are what then lead you, as like I said, as I became an adult, I kept all those baggage. I hadn't resolved those issues. I really wasn't truly aware that I had that many issues. And those things led to all the anxiety that I had in my life. They led to my relationships that I had in my life. It affects every aspect of it. So these childhood traumas really affect who you believe you are, and that then affects what you're able to accomplish or what you're able to do.
Interesting, Mr. EA. So we know trauma is stored not just in the mind but in the body. What are the most common physical or somatic changes and how we begin to address them?
Yeah, I think the physical manifestation of childhood traumas can be a lot of different things, and they can be a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But because we've had these traumas, we try to get control, right? A lot of times these traumas, someone did something to us or something happened to us. So now we're fighting for control of our mind, body, and soul. So a lot of these traumas, you see people that it can lead to eating disorders, whether that's too much or too little. It can lead to things like having stomach problems, indigestion, irritable bowel syndrome. There's so many different physical manifestations that these traumas can have that we don't realize and don't connect the dots to how our physical manifestations are from our childhood traumas. And then again, just the mental aspects of what happened is again, it's how you see yourself. So childhood traumas can lead to us, being in a job we don't like, having a career we're unfulfilled with, having unhappy relationships because our happiness was to be stolen from us, so we don't know how to get it back.
Yes, connect the dots, people. And for sure you will learn something. Why do so many survivors unconsciously recreate dynamics from their traumatic past in their adult relationships or life choices? And what is the first step breaking that cycle?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is we as human beings we get comfortable with things. You can get comfortable with a bad relationship. You can get comfortable with a bad job. You can get comfortable with great situations. But whatever it is, we get comfortable, and that's what we know. So we tend to repeat the behaviors that we know. So again, when you have these traumas and things that have happened, and people telling us how bad we are or what we can and can't do, and physically doing things to us to hurt us. That's what we know. So we don't really know. Unfortunately, some of these traumas and things that happen may have been disguised as love. These things may have happened to us as kids for someone saying they loved us and doing these things to us. So then what happens is we think love is what has happened to us before, these saying bad things, doing bad things, and we associate that with as love because that was our caregivers. So then when we get into a loving romantic relationship, we tend to be repeat these same behaviors because that's what we saw. We didn't take the time to realize these are things that it's not loving behavior. That's the opposite of loving behavior. But to really say what is love and define that so that we can be better people and have better relationships and better interactions moving forward in the future.
You can process trauma until you feel safe. For someone whose nervous system is constantly on alert, what does a building safety actually look and feel like as a first practical step?
Yeah, safety is very important, especially when you have not felt safety as a child. Like for me, having different abuses, and it was always like looking over my shoulder and not knowing kind of what the next thing that was going to happen was because I didn't feel safe. So so not feeling safe, led me to a lot of these bad behaviors. So what feeling safe looks like is when you're in some sort of situation where you're not afraid to do the right thing. I think when we're afraid of what the right thing is, or even worse, we're afraid to live up to our full potential. We're afraid to sing the song inside us. We're afraid to do what we were called to do because we feel that we'll be ridiculed, demeaned, ostracized, all these things. So that's the fear factor because we have been abused, trauma, and things of that nature. So we're afraid to express ourselves the way that we feel inside. And when you're not being authentically your own self, that's when, again, you can lead to anxiety, insomnia, these problems because you sometimes we can't always talk about it or realize what's going on. But when who you think you are and who you are in reality are not the same, that's when you run into a lot of problems.
Mr. EA, how essential is to vividly remember and recount specific traumatic events for healing to occur versus focusing on the present day symptoms and patterns?
Yeah, it's that's a great question. It's a great question. I get that a lot. When you have traumas, they're always going to be there, right? They happened. They can't go away. Um, but you don't want to live in the past, right? Those things happened. They're there. We're not trying to dismiss them. But the goal is to move forward and to be better for tomorrow, right? So we have to address our past, know what happened, talk about it, talk to a therapist or someone about it. And then we really need to get into the present. Okay, that happened in the past. Where are we right now? Where are we today? As if that was childhood trauma and now we're an adult, now we have the ability to make different choices than we had the ability to as a child. So we really want to focus in where are we now? And then we also want to look to the future and say, okay, what do we want our future to look like? So going back to my vision, intention, belief, and execution, what helped me to get through that is to say, okay, where do I want to be? What do I want to accomplish? Who do I want to become? And by having that vision of what exactly I want to become, that gives me hope for the future. And when you have hope for the future, then there's power in the present.
Hope for the future, indeed. And Mr. EA, thank you for that giving that hope. Where does forgiveness for the preparate or perpetuators or the oneself fit into this process? Is it necessary step for
I believe it's
breaking the
necessary.
change?
Oh, yeah, I definitely believe it's necessary. And it's very difficult because forgiveness, obviously, I mean, I'm a big believer in God, and He talks about forgiveness and forgiving people. And obviously, when these things have happened, especially as a child, we didn't have a choice and people are doing these things to us, it's extremely difficult to forgive. So I'm not going to say that's an easy thing, but for me to get to where I am today, I had to forgive. Okay. And one thing I wanted to make clear is that when you forgive, forgiveness is about you. Forgiveness is about lifting that weight off your shoulders. Forgiveness is about you being able to move forward. Now, trust, that's a whole different issue. So if you forgive someone, that doesn't mean you trust them, doesn't mean you necessarily even like them or want to be around them. But forgiveness is lifting that weight, lifting that trauma, helping to move forward. So forgiveness is a very necessary step for healing those traumas and for becoming a better person and stepping into your greatness in the future.
What is the gentle yet powerful way for someone to start acknowledging the impact of their childhood trauma without becoming overwhelmed by it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you should have a therapist. I think there's someone you should talk to. So when you have these traumas, it's very difficult to talk to. It took me years and years and years, to my adult life, till after I was going through my dark cloud stage to really be able to talk about it. But you have to be able to acknowledge what happened, and you have to be able to talk to someone about what happened, someone that you trust, someone that's not going to judge or demean or degrade you for what happened. But you have to be able to talk to someone about that in order to get that out in the open. So you have to find someone to have that safe space, because even by talking through it and talking to someone, that helps to take away the power that it has over you. All of us have these traumas, and it doesn't matter, what happened to you or me or someone else. They impact everyone differently, but they have an impact, and they have a strong impact, especially when it's in childhood. Those imprints from childhood are what we take with us, to everything that we do. So it's important, very, very important, to unpack that stuff that happened as a child in order for you to have the success that you want long term in the future.
Mr. EA, as a high energy motivational speaker, what are your short term and long term goals?
Yeah, so I mean, my short-term goal is to try to help as many people as possible that I can, that have been through these traumas, right? Because when I was in, I believe that these traumas and things that have happened to me happened for a reason. I believe they happen because I have the ability to carry them and to help unlock other people that have had these things. I think, especially us as adults, we don't talk about our traumas and things that have happened to us for fear that we'll be judged and ridiculed for things that we had no control over. But if I can tell my story to enough people and let them know, hey, these things happened to me and I got through it, and here's how I got through it, and you can get through it too. So short term is just trying to educate and help as many people, and long term, like I said, my Success Five system that is helping people to unlock themselves and unlock their full potential is to really get that out in the open so people really understand, that if you have this Success Vibe system, if you have the vision, if you have the intention and the belief, and they're able to execute, you can do anything. Too often we get stuck in where we are, especially when we become adults. We think, oh, we're too old, or now we have kids and a wife, and we can't do this and can't do that. And we have to remember that we can still do anything that we put our minds to. We just have to have that belief that we can do it. We have to have the action steps or intentions on how to get there, and then we have to execute. And really, if I can help change enough mindsets so people can really start to internalize that and believe that, man, there's just so much that we can do to really help to change the world and change the trajectory of where our life is headed.
Yes, believe within yourself, people, and good luck to your goals. And looking forward for more success, Mr. EA. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Yeah, just my piece of the biggest piece of advice is, again, just going back to believe you can do it. Every one of us was given unique gifts and talents that we have inside of us. And most times we know what those gifts are, but are we living in our purpose? Are we walking in our purpose? If we're doing the thing and using the gifts that we were given and using the gifts that were put inside of us, we can all do great things, and we'll all be happier and more fulfilled because we know we're using the gifts that were given to us.
Well, thank you for that advice, Mr. EA. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, there's a couple. One book is up here, but it's called The Alchemist. The Alchemist is a great book. It just really talks about, again, just controlling your own destiny. You always are in control of your own destiny. That book really just kind of highlights how, not to give it all away, but there was times that person lost all of their possessions a couple different times, only to gain back more than what they had because they were following their personal journey. So that's a great one that I really recommend if you're on a journey and trying to get somewhere and you have obstacles like we all have that can help you to really get your mindset focused on moving forward. Another great book that I would highly recommend is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And again, that just really talks about having the habits, set up the habits for success, and even small incremental wins or doing things 1% better than you used to are going to lead to a huge increase, not only in your productivity, but how your life looks in the future.
Hmm. Well, thank you for the recommended books, Mr. EA. And how can someone begin to challenge and change the core of negative belief?
Yeah, just by changing that course, having that vision, really hone in on your vision, what it is that you want out of life specifically, not just more money, but how do you want to make that? What kind of job do you want? What kind of house do you want? What kind of relationship do you want? Really, really have that vision and hone in, write it down, make it plain, and that'll help your choices because everything will be going towards that vision and the energy you put out will be going towards that vision which will then come back to you.
Mr. EA, how does a healed or integrated survival looks like? Is it a absence of pain or a new relationship with their past and themselves?
Yeah, it's a new relationship. It's just really understanding and really believing that you are in control of your own destiny, that you are the author of your own story. Once you really believe that, and you take life, take the bull by the horns, as they say, and just really really dive into what it is that you want to do and how it is that you can do the most good and help the most people. And once you really focus on that, you're going to unlock so much things. You'll let go of so much trauma and baggage and things you've been holding on to because you weren't walking in your purpose.
Walking in a purpose. And how do you say to the person who believes they are too broken or their trauma was not bad enough to warrant this kind of a deep work?
Yeah, I mean that's where I was. I thought. I mean, like I said, I was broke and I was broken, and broken was being worse than being broke. And those are really difficult places to be. But what happens is that becomes a mindset when you believe that you're broken and you believe you don't have resources to achieve what you want to do. That's a mindset, right? So we have to shift that mindset to believe that whatever you have the resources right now to make a positive impact, to move one step forward. And maybe your goal may take, many, many steps as these journeys are take a long step, but let's just do the first step. Like, let's just get one step closer. Let's get one win. When I was in my deep addiction and I was trying to get out, and I was able to get out of addiction, without going to rehab. I just one day at a time. I just said, let's start today. And today let's try not to take these drugs, not take as much. And then that day even went to let's try 1 hour without taking the next pill. And even 1 minute, it was 1 minute. Let's hold off 1 minute to take without taking the next substance. And by doing that over and over again and then celebrating, man, I made it one more minute. I made it one more hour. Those small, small wins, those micro wins, is what then led to a tidal wave of success. But those small wins gave me the confidence. They gave me the belief that, yes, I can achieve something, I can accomplish it. And by doing that day after day after day, you start looking back on having days and weeks and months of accomplishments and wins. That's what starts to change your mindset, change perspective that I'm not broken. I can become. But those little small wins are what's going to help you to change that mindset and really shift and believe that you can become everything that you want to become.
Mr. EA, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season. My book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season. And my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101, and music are fourth season. Science 101 and sex 101 in second season. MIBB Podcast Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. EA, if you could guide someone to break just one single chain from their childhood, which one would you have the most powerful ripple effect on the rest of their life?
Yeah, I say the most powerful thing is the vision. Have a vision, know where you want to go, know what you want to become. That's going to guide all your decisions. That's going to guide all your relationships when you know exactly what it is you want out of life. Because when you don't, it's like getting in the car and not putting a destination in the GPS. You're just driving around, but you don't know where you're going, right? And that's not going to get you anywhere. So make sure we have a destination. Make sure we have a clear vision of what it is you want, and that's going to help you to move forward in life.
Mr. E.A. Johnson, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, that'd be great. If anyone wants to get a hold of me or contact me, they can do so at my website. This is eajohnsonspeaks.com. You can find me on Instagram at eajohnsonspeaks, or you can email me at info@eajohnsonspeaks.com.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. E.A. Johnson because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering advocacy will rise. So, Mr. EA, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a great time, and I appreciate being on your show today.
Likewise, Mr. EA. Moticon people, see you soon.